everyone, welcome back to Show Me How to Win. We're at PAX U 2021, and we're at Project Nisei's booth. Next to me is June. June is the lead designer of Netrunner on Project Nisei. So June, 3 years ago, disaster happened. They announced that they're not going to support Netrunner anymore. But good news is Project Nisei is born. Tell me about it.
Sure, yeah. So Project Nisei is a fan collective of people who were longtime Netrunner players before the game was canceled. A lot of us come from a game development, game design, game publishing background, and we figured we could put that skill to use and our love of Netrunner and do a sort of fan continuation of the game. Nisei itself is a sort of worker-owned collective of volunteers. Everything we do is non-profit. All the money that is generated from the selling of cards goes to pay artists or gets reinvested into the community to run events.
It really is all for the love of Netrunner, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So everything we do, from doing this booth to get more players into the game, to creating the content, to running the tournaments, is all just for the love of Netrunner and because we're such huge fans of the game itself.
I'm so happy to hear that. I used to play Netrunner. I still have the base set and a few expansions. I stopped playing it, but then when they announced they're gonna stop supporting it, I was like, oh, bummer. And then when I found out about this, I'm like, I gotta come and check you guys out and promote you guys, because I don't think a lot of people know about Project Nisei. By the way, what's the inspiration for Nisei?
So Nisei, sort of in the previous world the game came from, were these sort of second generation of clones. So we're the second generation or the second iteration of Netrunner.
How fitting. All right, for the players who are not familiar with Netrunner, tell us how we play Netrunner.
Cool. So Netrunner is an asymmetrical two-player card game. One player plays the role of a monolithic mega corporation, and the other player a crafty or sort of out for blood hacker attempting to sabotage the corporation player. It takes place in a cyberpunk dystopia, so very futuristic hacker vibe. Essentially it's an action economy game. Each player will get some actions as well as an action sheet that they can take actions from. Those things are like drawing cards or playing cards, thing like that. And over the course of a match, the runner will attempt to hack into the corporation servers and try to sabotage and steal their agendas, which are worth points. And the first player to 7 points wins.
Right. Basically, you're dueling. You're either the corporation or you're either the runner. And the runner is trying to hack into the corporation. The corporations are trying to basically protect their data, right?
Exactly. So it's very much that the corporation is building this maze of servers and defenses, and the runner is on offense trying to install programs and tools of the hacker trade to sort of navigate through that board and win the game.
Right. Okay, so let's get into strategy.
Sure.
So before the game even begins, there's a lot of preparation for the game. So let's talk about what should we do on the hacker side or the runner side right before the game begins.
Sure. So Netrunner is a game of deck building. In the products we've recently released, System Gateway, that comes with some pre-constructed decks, so you could jump in right away without having to worry about sort of the deck building component of the game, as well as some recommended decks and ideas for building your own decks. And your deck will be comprised of various things: programs that can help you break the corporation's defenses, hardware that sort of represent your computer and tools, and resources, which represent the people you know and the locations you go and maybe even your day job or things you do outside in the meat space world when you're not hacking. And all of those cards together form your deck. And as you play as the runner, you essentially start with a blank tableau with nothing in front of you. And over the course of the game, spending actions, you'll install and play more and more of these cards. And those cards will either do some combination of getting you money, or helping you break into the corporation servers more easily, or help you steal agendas once you've broken into the corporation servers. And so over the course of the game, your tableau as the runner will build and build and build, and you'll become more and more powerful throughout a game.
What about if you're the corporate side? The corporate side is a little bit more tricky at the beginning of the game before it starts, because you got a lot to set up. So what are some of the strategies or tips that you will give to the player who are playing the corporate side?
So the corporation's benefit is that when they play cards, they're always played face down. The runner, everything's out in the open. When you play a card, it's right in front, but the corporation, they're played face down and inactive. And they can pay money to res or activate those cards throughout the course of a match. So what you're trying to do as the corporation is defend your servers in such a way that allow you to score agendas. Agendas are scored by spending action, installing the agenda, and then placing them to the board, and then spending actions to advance them. What's interesting, though, about the corporation is they also have traps. They have misdirections that they can use to sort of trick and bait the runner into thinking, oh, I'm going to score this agenda, but instead it's actually a deadly trap that could flatline them and cause them to lose the game. So very much the idea with the corporation is you're using the hidden information to bluff and trick the runner into sort of misusing their resources, and then use that opportunity to score your agendas and advance the game for yourself.
Okay, so opening hand. I got my cards. If I were the runner, what kind of things should I play at the beginning of my run?
So when you're starting the game as the runner, you're looking for cards that either net you some more credits, which is the money in the world of Netrunner, or draw you some more cards that can help you find those programs. When the corporation installs their defensive cards, you cannot interact with them until you have programs installed that can interact with them. So you're looking to make some money, so you'll have the resources you need to then install programs which will allow you to do that interaction with the corporation, which you don't really have access to right away at the start of the game. And also, if you see weaknesses in the corporation, you can make runs against the corporation from as early as the first turn. So it's, you have a lot of options right away, but really you're looking to build up.
I remember when I was playing that game, money is very tight. So if your opening hand has a bunch of cards that cost a lot of money, you're pretty much stuck.
Yes, exactly. So, in the rules of Netrunner, you do have the option to, get a new hand if you don't like your starting hand. And so we always encourage people to look for those cards that give them a little bit of burst of money so they have something to work with right at the start of the game.
Yeah, and when you get more familiar with the game, make sure you have those cards in your deck.
Yes, definitely. And you'll want to, as you understand the game better, you'll know, how many different economy cards or sources of credits you'll need throughout a match. Some decks have really expensive cards and need a lot of money. Some decks are lower to the ground and don't really need as much resources.
Yeah. That's what we like about Netrunners. You really can customize it, and it's not as complicated as some other games.
Yeah. Netrunner takes a little bit of learning to it. It has some complexity, but for the most part, once you get the hang of it, it flows pretty quick.
Yeah, and usually the deck that they give you is pretty good. You can just make a little bit of tweak to it.
Yeah, exactly. So in System Gateway, which is our sort of introduction product to Netrunner, it comes with a couple of starter decks that are fresh to play right out of the box. You don't do any setup. And then those decks have really everything sort of configured for you. But as you sort of expand your collection and add more to them, there's lots of different customization you can do to sort of suit your own playstyle.
Right, exactly. Okay, so what about I'm playing the corporate side? It's my opening hand. What should I do?
Yeah, so for the corporation player, the first things first is that your defenses are not in place. Your servers that the runner can attempt to hack against, which are your hand and deck, are wide open. So the first things first, you want to get some defenses down at the start of the game to sort of dissuade the runner from getting those early runs against your servers. Once you've done that, you're also going to look for some economy. Similar to the runner, you're going to need credits to be able to res or activate your cards installed. So you're going to look to get those early defenses down, make a little bit of money, and then start to build out your servers defensively so you're able to score agendas.
Okay, so halfway through the game, I'm playing the runner. I am not finding those cards that I need, or I'm not able to hack as successfully as I like. What are some of the ways to catch up?
Yeah, so when you're looking to catch up for the runner, you're really looking to make high impact runs. So what that means is you're looking for areas where the corporation's trying to make a play. Say, you think they're just about to install an agenda and try and score it on their next turn. If you know that, you think that's coming up, you can do some preparation. Instead of spending resources now on runs that might not work, save up some money and build up your resources so that you can make one high impact hack attempt called a run and really try and steal an agenda when it matters rather than just sort of running and interacting constantly early in the game.
Yeah, I think I remember before when I play, in the beginning you do quick runs because their defense were down. So you try to just get a few. Sometimes you get lucky, you just draw the right card. Yeah, but definitely not towards the end. They have heavy, and they have those traps set up for you. So you have to have all these just in case this happens, I gotta have everything prepared before I run. What about the corporate side? The runners are getting very lucky. They keep revealing my hand. They know exactly where everything is. What do I do to catch up?
Yeah, so in general, as the corporation player, let's say that, they've gotten lucky in the early game. They've scored some points from you. Really what you want to do is you want to make sure that your defenses are locked down so there's no obvious weakness in your board. Sometimes your HQ, which is your hand, or your R&D, which is your deck, will be kind of wide open. It won't be very expensive. So you're going to want to make sure that your holes are all plugged in the boat, right? You don't want to make it super easy for the runner to be running any particular server. So that's really always the first thing you want to do, is make sure your board is locked down. Typically then, you want to look to try and either trick the runner into spending some resources they didn't need to spend by baiting that you might have an agenda in a server and instead it's a trap, or you want to utilize the fact that maybe the runner installed an expensive card and is running low on resources. Now you can use that as an opportunity. We call that a scoring window, to sort of like get an agenda down behind some ice and try and score it out.
Okay. So we covered the basics. Let's get into the specific factions. So in your core set, how many factions are on either side?
Yeah. So there are 4 corporation factions and 3 runner factions. The 3 runner factions are Shaper, Criminal, and Anarch. The Anarchs are the politically motivated runners. They have a political agenda that they're trying to achieve. And they're the most destructive force of all of the runners. They cause a lot of chaos and destruction throughout the match, either making the corp discard cards or trashing their cards or things like this. The criminals are motivated by money. So they run to make a money, a quick buck. So all their cards are incentives for making runs early and often against the corporation. So they're sort of the most aggressive and interaction based of the 3 runners. And the Shapers are all about creativity and knowledge. So they're the planners, the thinkers, the meticulous heist doers, right? So they're all about making maybe not a lot of runs, but their runs are very well prepared for and planned. And from a philosophical standpoint, they sort of run out of the love of running and hacking because they can. Exactly.
All right. What about the corporate side?
Yeah. So the corporations, there's HB. HB is sort of they create robots essentially for labor solutions, and their sort of playstyle is about efficiency. It's about slowly building up that board state over the course of the game until it's so expensive and difficult for the runner to interact with them that they're able to sort of casually score their agendas out of their servers and sort of watch as you can't do anything about it. They're very controlling in that way. Then there is NBN. We like to think of them as the Fox News of the future. They're a very political spin, news outlet. And their style is by using information to give the runner tags, which sort of is a mechanic that lets them know where you are. And then once you're tagged, that activates a bunch of cards on their board, and they're able to do a bunch of really nasty things to you because they kind of know where you live, basically. So very insidious. And then there's Genteki. They're a faction that makes sort of narratively, they make clone labor in the cyberpunk universe, and their whole thing is trickery and being mischievous. So they have a lot of traps. They have misdirection. They might change the server you're running on while you're running. Or change the type of one of their defenses to make it so you can no longer interact with it. Things like this. So they're very tricky, and they're always sort of changing and shifting the landscape of the game. And then finally is Wayland. Think the builders and hedge fund managers of the Netrunner universe. So they're very into money and building stuff. They provide weapons to the military. They're sort of the big military industrial hedge fund complex of sort of the Netrunner universe.
Awesome. What about the, Netrunners? We have a lot of expansions. So do you have some expansions already done or down the pipeline?
Yeah, so when we first started Nisei, our very first object was to get some new cards out, because that's the lifeblood of any card game, is getting some new content in the mix. So our first 2 releases, called the Ashes Cycle, were Uprising and Downfall. Those came out a couple years ago. Those are available on our website still, nisei.net. That was followed up by System Gateway. System Gateway is really our starting point and entry point for new people into Netrunner. It's also really the first time Netrunners had a really proper packaged introduction to learning to play the game. Despite the fact that there was a core set, it really wasn't focused at teaching very well. The instructions were very cumbersome, and there was lots of mechanics. It was very complex. System Gateway has a sort of introduction component to it where it's very stripped down and simple, and it gets you playing the game very quickly to where you can play your first couple matches in an hour of just sort of learning the rules.
And it's fully compatible with the Fantasy Flight version, right?
Yeah. So our game is mechanically the same game. We say on our website it's compatible with those cards. So if you're somebody who has some old Fantasy Flight cards and you just want to add some more stuff to them, our cards totally work with them.
I'm just going to have to bust my old stuff out and put your guys' card in there.
Yeah, exactly. And we love that. A lot of our community members do that. And, importantly, when the Fantasy Flight game went away, it was really important to us. Like, a lot of people had invested a lot of money and time into those cards, and we didn't want, we wanted to be sort of economically respectful to people who are playing the game and make sure that, we don't expect you to just throw away everything that you've, invested in. So we really want, our community has all kinds of online leagues and local meetups where people are playing with the old cards, with just our cards, with a mix, and all kinds of other formats.
And that's what you want to see when you first created it. So, how do folks get their hands on your cards?
Sure. So you can go to nisei.net, Nisei.net, and on nisei.net you can click products, and then that'll link off to a print-on-demand publisher that makes our cards. In addition to that, we really believe in economic inclusivity in Netrunner, and that means that our game is actually available completely for free. So you can download high-resolution PDFs of all of our content through our website, and that's totally free to anybody who wants it. Print-and-play items are also available. You can use them at our tournaments. There are players who played in our World Championship, and they just played print-and-play. They spent nothing.
Sometimes when I play Magic, I just can't afford that card, so I just make a proxy.
Yeah, exactly. But proxies are totally legal in Netrunner events, and we really believe that anybody should be able to play. We're the only, to my knowledge, truly free-to-play card game that you can really get into.
That is so awesome, June. Thank you so much for showing me Project Nisei's Netrunner, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!